Hey guys, welcome to the Rubin Report. I'm the guy who set up all of CNN's plain programming, Dave Rubin, and I've got Bryn Mooser and Travon free with me. Here we go. All right, Ukraine. Have you heard about this? We got a situation brewing. They have officially seceded in Crimea from the Ukraine. They voted. They're joining Russia. 97%, just shy of the 100% that Kim Jong-un got in his re-election bid in North Korea. Pretty good, right? There was an interesting op-ed in USA Today by Ron Paul, not Rand Paul, he's hot these days, but it was by Ron Paul about what the US's role in Ukraine should be. What's the big deal? Opponents of the Crimea vote like to point out to the illegality of the referendum, but self-determination is a centerpiece of international law. Article 1 of the United Nations Charter points out clearly that the purpose of the UN is to develop friendly relations among nations based on respect for the principle of equal rights and self-determination of peoples. Perhaps the US officials who supported the unconstitutional overthrow of Ukraine's government should refocus their energies on learning our own constitution, which does not allow the US government to overthrow governments overseas or send $1 billion to bail out Ukraine and its international creditors. Okay, so I thought this was interesting because you're not going to hear anything about Rand Paul's feelings on this in the news, but I think he does sum up sort of the way a lot of people feel. Like, what the hell does this have to do with us? That's sort of how I feel. How do you guys feel? What should our role in this place that's halfway across the world be?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I sort of disagree with Ron Paul in this, which is I think this is a big issue and the world focus should be on this right now. I think this is a really important moment geopolitically when the borders are shifting and we should be paying attention. And I think if it wasn't for so much focus on the Malaysian plane, I do think we would be paying attention. So, I mean, that's my take on it. And, you know, Ron Paul and I sort of disagree about a lot of things.
So you think the 25-hour-a-day coverage of the plane is a bit too much? Is that what you're saying?
No, I mean, I'm into the plane coverage, but I also just think that this is an important moment. It's an important moment for the United States, it's an important moment for Europe, and it's an important moment for the Ukraine, certainly, and Russia.
All right, so we'll talk about why it's important, but first, do you put it in that category somewhere?
I mean, no, I definitely agree. I mean, forget the fact that Ron Paul is the guy, old man on his lawn, yelling about the thing in the paper he saw this morning.
Handing out flyers while he's doing it, yeah.
But, I mean, you can't ignore the fact that a country was just taken back by another country because they saw a hole in the gate. Like, it's literally like the guy next door is Putin and he hears you and your wife arguing and he goes, well, here's my chance to go take this guy's wife because they're fighting, so I can get in there. And like, why? Like, that's serious to like, you can just take another country. Like, what year is this?
Right. So what should our role be, though? Because I'm with you guys that, yeah, he should not be doing this. And obviously the 97% that voted for it, obviously that's bullshit. But what should we do? Are we going to arm you? I mean, John McCain's saying we should arm Ukraine.
Well, like he wants another angry old man.
Yeah, speaking of an angry old man, we'll top your angry old man.
The angry old man who yells, just get your gun. No matter what the situation is, get your gun.
But don't you think that what Ron Paul's saying, that does sort of resonate with a lot of people in the United States right now? Just this idea that we just shouldn't be all over the place. Whatever it is, we're only going to make it worse. I think that's sort of the thrust of it.
I mean, that's a valid point, I think, too. But, you know, Ron Paul is also, has argued on the other side of that fence a lot of times where there should be sort of intervention. And certainly John McCain, who argues for intervention all the time. I mean, it's an opportunity that the world should be just focusing on attention and paying attention to this situation.
John McCain would argue for intervention in cupcake wars.
John McCain would argue for intervention in this right now.
Right.
Yeah. But don't you see this as sort of that Putin just feels like he can do whatever he wants? Using your analogy. So
right.
what?
And I think you can't be America and not do anything because you're America and everyone's like, you're supposed to be the one who helps us when we're when another country's in need. Like, what are we supposed to do? Like, America, help us. And so when you do nothing, Obama's weak and he is unresponsive, and then when he does something, it's not the right thing. So as the world superpower, we have to, I mean, it's because the Bush-Iraq thing kind of burned out our tolerance for intervention just anywhere. And so we as a country have to realize, put that behind us. We have to focus on what's happening now, and we have to deal with problems that arise in the world that could affect us in the future, no matter what happened in the past. And if that means intervening in another country's, whatever it may be, we have to examine that
And I also
what it
think
is.
that this is maybe the first opportunity where Putin is sort of putting back together the Soviet Union, and so we just have to pay attention to that. I think both from a political standpoint and also from a human rights standpoint, which this could cause a refugee crisis. I mean, this could be a serious. And I'm by no means a hawk, but this is a moment where I think let's keep an eye out and see what happens.
Is the scary part of this whole thing that maybe Sarah Palin and Mitt Romney were actually right about something? Is that truly the scariest part here?
It's totally a broken clock is right twice a day kind of thing, where it just so happened to really fall in their lap. And I mean, if you look at the opening ceremonies, it was really Putin pining for the USSR, like this is what he wanted, and he's trying to get the band back together.
Is the other problem here that this is sort of unmasked once again? I think that the UN is just sort of pointless when it comes to doing pretty much anything, because we veto things on the Security Council we don't like. Russia now invades another country, vetoes things that they don't like. So really it is just up to us because we're the last superpower. So if we don't do anything, we're damned if we do, damned if we don't, because there's nobody else but us.
The UN is good at blocking traffic in New York when they have the people in town. That's the one thing they're really good at.
So that 1 week when they have the General Assembly, they're really good at
shutting down the city.
East Side, Is there any point in the UN at this point?
I still have a lot of love for the UN, despite the fact that they brought cholera to Haiti, which was a personal issue and vendetta that I had against the UN. But I still think there is a place for a world body that can try to speak with a unified voice and a little bit of reason here and there. I think they've been ineffective a lot. There probably needs to be a lot of reform, but it would be a scary world, I think, that didn't have a United Nations.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, well, let's talk about President Obama and some poll numbers, as long as we're talking about Ukraine, because he's getting hit basically on both sides. People saying he's not doing enough, he's doing too much. So a new CNN ORC International poll came out about Obama's numbers. 57% believe leaders of other countries no longer respect Obama. 50% see Obama as a strong and decisive leader. 50% do not. There's also a roughly 50-50 split on whether Obama inspires confidence. 53% say he's tough enough to handle a crisis, and 77% say he's likable. Let's start with the likable part, because that is, right? Like, that's the thing. This guy, this was a cult of personality that we all voted for. I voted for him twice. Hope and change. We all still like him sort of more than the policies. Is that fair to say?
That number's high, though, isn't it? That's a high.
That's really high.
Really
77%.
Yeah.
We'd all take that. I take that in my own family.
No, I think he's still incredibly likable. You know, he's opened the White House up to be an accessible place, and that family seems to be one that everybody really loves and respects. It's the other numbers that I think
pushing vegetables on us.
That's true, except for the vegetables and the bike helmets and mom jeans. It's a pretty normal American family. But it's the rest of the numbers that I think are problematic for the president.
I mean, I think, and I say this a lot, when you look at the numbers about what people think about him as a person, as a leader, I think it really boils down to the fact that they just hate him. They've hated him since before he was inaugurated the first time. Yeah. And so, to me, those numbers don't really mean anything because, for one, every president's numbers do this over the course of their presidency. But, I mean, for him, he's had such a tougher mountain to climb when you face opposition before you even swear into office. So how do you measure the effectiveness of a man who's constantly being blocked? Like, how do I know what works and what doesn't if I've never seen anything through? Really, I mean...
So the important number isn't the 77%, the likable number, but it's the other percent, which is the hate number is so big that it clouds a lot
roughly, do you think it's about 23% that just hate him no matter what? Or it's probably, you think I think that's probably the bare minimum.
Absolutely. I would say that's a given. And then you look at the fact that they obstruct him for the simple fact of obstructing him. And so it's hard for me to judge him as a leader when I haven't really seen him lead. I mean, at least when Bush was president, the Democrats would, okay, you want to do this? We don't like it, but we'll see it through. We'll see it through.
Well, there's some game. We're going to play along a little bit.
Let's play along a little bit for the sake of not shutting down the government. And so I can't really say with 100% certainty how I feel about his leadership or his decisiveness. For one, who the fuck are we to talk about the decisiveness of the president of the United States?
Like, who the hell are we?
Do you know how hard that job is?
That's
like,
a tough job.
Who are you sitting on your couch like, yeah, man, that Obama guy, No matter, even if it's a Republican, like, you don't know how hard it is to be president, no matter what party you're in.
He doesn't get a chance to give you a poll number and how you do your job.
Exactly. I give the way you made those fries 33%. I mean, I've had better fries in other times, but I don't really.
I mean, I do know that Obama's a big fan of the show and has clicked like many times on a lot of our videos.
Well, so that's you're the likable.
Somebody on YouTube named Barack Obama, it's just spelled slightly differently. Do you think, so to that point, do you think he gives a flying fuck about numbers at this point, especially because he's almost entering lame duck status if he's not already there? I just saw this morning that already they're planning this move to Hillary already with some of his people, and Biden's already pissed about that. So do you think he cares? He looks at these numbers, he's like, I got 2.5 years left or whatever it is, and I'm gonna do what the hell I want.
I think he sees that 77% number and he's happy about that. But I think I mean, how could you not care when you get numbers coming out all the time that says you're, ineffective or you're wimpy or you wear mom jeans or whatever it is that the 23% level against it all the time. Yeah, you gotta.
And you can't punch anyone.
No,
like,
you have to.
You have to take it. Like, they're calling you out and you have to sit there and take it.
You don't think he just like bitch slaps Biden every now and again? Just something?
I hope so.
I hope he has a punching bag or something in the office.
Right.
Yeah.
To me, that number that's interesting is that 57% number that we talked about, which was they were saying, what was it? 57% of Americans believe that other leaders find him wimpy or weak or what it is. That number is crazy. How do you even determine that number? How does CNN even find that number?
How is it not 100? Like, because they're the leaders of course they're gonna think that the other leader is weak or a wimp. Like, no one's gonna come out and go, man, that Obama, he's so strong and so confident. I wouldn't want that guy to try to
tussle with him.
Yeah, I would never want to fight that guy. I mean, we love you, Obama.
But shouldn't they take the poll against other world leaders instead of what just middle Americans think the president of Uganda
poll the leaders.
Yeah, poll the leaders.
Want Merkel to take a poll.
That's an interesting number.
What's
not an interesting number is somebody in Minnesota saying like, oh, I bet like the president of Uganda thinks he's not very strong. Like, it's like, who cares what that guy thinks?
So
they don't even know who these presidents are.
Right. So isn't this one of these things that goes back to the Ukraine thing where it's like he's damned if he does, damned if he doesn't, because you can do more and then they'll respect him more, but then we'll be in a war. So it's like, how do you pick? Do I want to be in a war I don't want to be in, or do I want to be liked?
Right. Yeah. And that's a tough choice.
I think the number would be interesting if it just said 57 Americans can name another world leader. And then we would say like, oh, that's probably...
Baptist churches in Paducah, Kentucky, which was the site of a high school shooting back in 1997, are hosting, quote, Second Amendment celebrations and giving away guns and steaks, because you got to have a steak if you're going to have a gun, to attract more people to their congregations. I am not making this story up. It is actually true. Let's take a look at a little video from the local Fox affiliate.
Forgive me, but I never really heard of churches giving out guns to get guys to sit in the pews.
Oh man, you've just been out of touch. We've been doing this 20 years.
This is in Paducah, you know.
Paducah, Kentucky.
So you know what happened in Paducah.
I've heard about that.
So, did you know about that before you planned this? A little ironic, a little maybe insensitive.
The issue is not the guns. The issue is men's hearts. And men who have their hearts changed through a personal relationship with Jesus Christ will handle guns responsibly.
Chuck does seem like a very spiritual guy, doesn't he? Well, don't worry, folks. It's not just happening in Kentucky. It's happening in New York, too. Upstate Troy, New York. According to the LA Times, there's a church there that's giving away an assault rifle this very weekend. We've got the flyer. Yeah, you can win a free AR-15. My peace I give unto you. John 14:27, March 23rd. Yeah, they're going to give away a freaking assault rifle. I mean, is this literally just the worst of everything in America? Like, somehow that they've combined spirituality and religion and guns and fear and steak.
It's like Jesus always said, turn the other cheek and reload.
Yeah, exactly.
And then fire back. Like, how weak do you think your stance is or your God is if you have to attract people with guns? Like, if your message, if you believe that heavily in Jesus Christ and the love of the Lord, and you can't do it with the Bible, that you have, okay, here's a gun, here's a steak. What do I have to give you?
Right.
Here's 2 tickets to see
Bingo
Miley
didn't work when
Cyrus.
they had that night.
Yeah,
Carnival Day didn't work when they did that.
What more how do I get you to love my Lord?
Yeah, and I guess religion in a way is often about bribery, one way or another.
It's almost literally bringing you to Jesus at gunpoint.
Yeah, it is. The Bible is like the shield for the bullets, and then you got your gun and the steak. when I was watching this, I was thinking, look, if a Jewish temple did this, that would just simply never happen. And can you imagine if a mosque, if Muslims said we were giving away guns, people's heads would
That
literally.
would be incredible. We should just try that, I think, and see what happens.
Can
if
you
we just
really? Can
They
you
would
imagine?
lose their minds.
Oh, it'd be the end of it.
Oh,
It'd be
yeah.
the end of it.
Fox would literally spin off another channel altogether to just deal with that constantly.
But it
wouldn't
is
know
an
how to
interesting
process
point
it.
because the rest, I bet there's a lot of other churches and congregations and NRAs who are rallying around these churches who, when people are, crying that this is a bad idea or this is, unpolitical or whatever, there are probably churches out there who are coming around this saying like, we should protect our, our rights and this is something that a church can do. But yeah, God forbid, if it was a mosque, it would be the end. It would be burned to the ground.
How is it the heart test? How does that work when giving someone a gun? Like he has to have a good heart. It's like the time when Bush said he looked into Putin's eyes and saw into his heart. Like what the fuck does that even mean?
What does that mean? But okay, so then beautifully, so the quote there was "My peace I give unto you," and so they're using a biblical term to try to sell you a gun. But what's the connection?
P-I-E-C.
It's
not P-E-A-C-E.
Oh, that
funny.
makes sense.
Yeah,
That's
that's the other piece.
Yeah, it's the other piece. No, but really, like, what are they going for there? Like, I guess somehow they're implying my peace I give it to you in that I'm gonna weaponize you so you will protect yourself, because I guess God can't protect you when it comes down to it if someone's breaking into your house.
He's too busy picking who's going to win the Final Four. So you got to arm yourself.
And especially
for
March
the next
Madness
month.
now.
It's just it's one of those stories that it comes out and you have nothing to say. It's so terrible, and you go, this is a snapshot of America today, and it's terrifying. And maybe what's worse is they're giving out this steak, which is probably so pumped full of hormones.
That's a whole other. We'll get to some food stuff later. Yeah. It's all GMO and all that stuff. All right. So just to finish up with this, where do you guys generally stand on the gun thing? I've been trying to ask a lot of the panelists that we've had on just a general thing because I feel like our debate about it is so stupid. So let me get two rational people. Where do you generally stand on the gun thing?
Well, I think as a country, we are so far gone over the Second Amendment that taking away guns is never going to happen. So I think you really just need really good, rational gun reform. And that's all you can really do here. Like, you're never going to be Australia or England because people will go crazy if you tell them we're going to get rid of guns. So I think it really comes down to just really good, solid reform.
So that people can have them, but maybe not a machine gun, but you could have a rifle to shoot a deer, say.
I have a family who is in Maine who are hunters, and they rely on that for their food in the winter, so I can't be so against their ability to be able to hunt. But I think when the Second Amendment was written, it was like muskets that they were talking about, right? So maybe people should be able to have a musket if you have to put, there's a powder and then a little pellet.
There was actually a commercial where the guy tried to do an office shooting with a musket, and that was the joke. Like, while he was reloading, everyone was gone.
Right.
But
so is the musket?
Is the argument against that, though, that these people genuinely think that one day they're going to have to form a militia to fight the government? So they would argue, well, if the government has tanks, we do need machine guns.
They watch too much TV.
They're
too
watching
many movies. They're losing the bunker. Those people, doomsday prepper. They're going nuts. They're driving themselves insane with this crazy illusion in their mind.
Right, we're going to be beating down the door trying to get the baked beans.
I honestly believe that if the NRA would team up with The Walking Dead people and sell it to me as you're going to need this for the zombie invasion, I would be much more pro-gun than I am right now.
How many do you need? How many guns do you need?
You don't need
depends how many
an AR-15 to hunt.
Well, that's the zombies. But that's my point. Okay. I think we solved the gun thing right there. All right, let's move on. 2.5 Men is a horrible show. Have you seen it? It's really just terrible. Apparently it's still on, which I cannot believe. Charlie Sheen is long gone. They have Ashton Kutcher now. And I guess the Half Men, the kid, he's off the show entirely. Angus T. Jones, he left the show after ranting against the show and calling it filth. We've got a little video of him telling people not to watch in the first place.
Jake from 2.5 Men means nothing. He is non-existent character. He's 2.5 Men. If you watch 2.5 Men, please stop watching 2.5 Men. I'm on 2.5 Men. I don't want to be on it. Please stop watching it.
Aw, poor kid. He made millions and now he realizes it's filth, doesn't want you to watch anymore. But now look at him. It looks like he's turned into someone from Duck Dynasty.
That was making light of topics in our world that are really problems for a lot of people. And I was a paid hypocrite because I wasn't okay with it, but I was still doing it.
So he left, but in hindsight he says he could have approached it differently.
You know, that's his baby. and I just, just totally insulted his baby, and to a certain, and to that degree, I am apologetic, but otherwise, I'm not. I don't regret saying what I said.
The he's talking about there is Chuck Lorre, who is the creator and executive producer of 2.5 Men. I think this story is kind of fascinating because first off, this show is still on the air.
Right.
2.5 Men, one of the men left, now the half kid left. I mean, I don't know what's going on with all that. What do you make of this? Like that he's trying.
Is he on Rumspringa? He looks like
he needs a shower.
Yeah, like he's going half crazy. Like how do you sit there and take all that money? I did. He didn't give it back. Did he give the money back?
And that's the crux of it. It's like, are you giving the money back?
Yeah,
kid?
like don't sit there and talk about the hand that fed you for however many years.
Buy a razor.
Right. Exactly. Like get a Gillette. Like, don't give the money back.
But not only give the money back, obviously he's still getting residuals. So it's
absolutely. And
it's
he's
not
going
just that
to.
he got a chunk of this money 5 years ago. He's going to probably for the rest of his life.
And I bet in his mind, he's like, I'm going to use that money to spread the word. So I'm shifting the use of this bad thing that I did, and I'm not going to use the money for whatever frivolous thing. I'm going to use it to spread my new message. So I'm actually using Chuck Lorre's money for good.
Right, but wait, well, maybe he's doing that. I got to defend, like, I like that kid doing that sort of moment like that, and that first shot where he's wearing those like Malcolm X glasses, it's cool, man. Like I'm into people who have these kind of awakenings where they're making a terrible show for like a terrible network that's really filling people's minds with terrible crap anyway, and then all of a sudden he wakes up and he becomes a fanatic. I'm into fanatics. Like I think it's more interesting than just standing up and getting another Teen Choice Award or something like that.
I wish we would have had video of him between the Malcolm X stage and then the Duck Dynasty stage
because there was an in-between stage. You could tell something happened there.
I am on board. I'm on board the idea that you're saying of like if he truly believes that it's we all pretty much I think I can speak for all of us when we think a show like that is crap.
Right.
So if he really believes that, there's some credit I want to give him.
It's cool, right? But anybody who really has like a strong belief like that, like you gotta give it up to that kid for standing up for something. I mean, even though I probably don't agree with whatever his politics or whatever it is, but like it's kind of cool that at least he stood up and said something. Like it's pretty punk in that whole thing.
Yeah. So are we being too glib about this Angus T. Jones?
No, you can have it.
I don't know. I find it pretty hilarious. Like, sure, I mean, I definitely agree. I mean, you got to give it up to someone who can wake up on either side of a thing, like the people who come out of the Westboro Baptist Church. I mean, you want it to happen.
Right.
You want it to be a possibility.
Remember Kirk Cameron? It happened to Kirk Cameron.
Oh my God, like that is insane.
Well,
the guy thinks a banana fits in your hand, and that's how God exists.
Did you see
like,
that?
That is ridiculous.
Yeah, there's a great Kirk Cameron banana video. We will link to it in the description. Is it just too easy though to shit on Hollywood and the lifestyle here and the message here? I've been here for a year, and I guess I probably had some of those preconceived notions of it's all these elitist, liberal, whatever. And I've pretty much only met really good people. But not only that, I don't get a sense that they're pushing any agenda other than they want to sell programming. I don't get a sense that there's like a real message or some unified thing going on behind the scenes. So is it just too easy to attack Hollywood like that?
Look, that 2.5 Men show had Charlie Sheen on it forever, who's an asshole, and who was not great to the women in his life, or was not, probably used a lot of drugs publicly. So like, I don't know, maybe the kid's got a point, which is
or
he had to stand
really great to the women.
Or he was
depends which
and that was the problem.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I agree with you that I don't think that this town proselytizes or pushes some message like that. But I still got like a little love for that kid when he stands up and grows his hair out and looks like a weirdo and stands up and does interviews and takes a hit on the chin for like believing in something, which I think in this maybe in this town it's rare that somebody believes in something with that much conviction that they're willing to stand up against everything else. That's all right. I'm just
why
gonna go
is
there.
it? Yeah, exactly. You're not. Yeah. Why is it that everyone that suddenly goes the religious route starts looking crazy? What's that? Why can't he have made the move? Said, okay, I'm done with this thing. I'm going to keep that first Malcolm X look. Maybe even just get Warby Parker instead of that look. But you know what I mean? Like, why do then the hair? Why does that all come in one package?
It seems like once you jump to the crazy religious train, they like hand you a starter kit.
Yeah.
It's like, here's your beard, here's your crazy glasses.
They take away your conditioner and your shampoo.
Here's a script of the things you want to start out saying so that people pay attention.
Yeah.
And then probably fade off into obscurity.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys saw Real Time this week, but Bill Maher did a great thing on religion as usual, where he talked about, you've got these Orthodox Jews that in the middle of the summer are wearing wool hats. Mormons can't drink hot chocolate on a cold winter's day. And it's like, and now you got this kid who looked pretty normal, and now, I mean, he looks like a mountain man.
Yeah.
Same
Yeah, he
difference,
looks
I
like the
suppose.
American Taliban, or the other version of it, I think.
There you go. All right, let's talk about rewiring our brains, because the internet and technology and phones, it is actually doing it to us. Let's look at 8 ways that technology is rewiring our brains. We now dream in color, which we did not do a long time ago. We're going to get to that one in a little bit. We experience FOMO. Do you guys know what FOMO is? You two hipsters?
Yeah.
Fear of missing out, that's right. Phantom vibration syndrome, which I think we've all had in our pocket right now. We can't sleep, that's a big one. Our memory and attention span aren't that great. I really want to talk about that one. We have better visual skills. We have poorer impulse control. We create more. So these aren't all terrible. Some of these are actually good if we have better visual skills and we're creating more and connecting with people in different ways. So let's just look at a couple of these. So the dreaming in color one I thought was really interesting. A 2008 study found out that adults who grew up in houses with black and white TVs were more likely to dream in black and white. So that's sort of like the first version of this, where somehow technology was changing what's going on in our brain. Doesn't that seem, it seems kind of crazy actually, doesn't it?
And then I don't even know what people were dreaming about before they grew up in a black and white television. Were they dreaming at all? Like, were cavemen dreaming at all? I mean, who knows? I just, that seems crazy to me.
Probably color.
Because it was coming out of
their eyes. I see what you were doing there, yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't know. That one seems absolutely crazy to me. I can't remember any of my dreams in the first place, so I'm not sure.
I'm a vivid dreamer, and it's always in color. And I remember them.
Even if you watched I Love Lucy, it's still in color.
They're still in color.
Still in color.
They're sometimes crazy, sometimes weird. But yeah, I've always been a dreamer. I have friends who say they never dream, but there was a study that says everyone dreams, everyone doesn't remember.
Yeah.
But yeah, I grew up in a household with a color TV, so that's probably why I am a color dreamer.
Just strapped to your head like that, just watching it.
With the belt, just like watching it.
Exactly. So, all right, so speaking of dreams, so that we can't sleep, I thought this was kind of interesting. So neuroscientists suspect that all the lights from your iPad and your iPhone and everything else is actually like scrambling your brain right before you go to sleep, so you can't sleep. Do you guys suffer from this at all? Because
I literally just bought blackout curtains for my bedroom for that reason,
right?
Because the light, it does really like keep you some level of awake, or when you do kind of wake up to turn over, the light hits your eyes and it makes it harder for you to go back to sleep. But now the blackout curtains help a lot.
Yeah, do you do any of the shutdown? Do you guys do the shutdown? I've really been trying like an hour before I go to bed to stop looking at Twitter, really stop so that my brain has a second just to
Well, that's
to
what I've
slowly
been
shut
trying to
down.
do too, which is that like previously into the last like 2 weeks, I'm terrible at it, but the last thing that I do is look at my phone, and then the first thing I do when I wake up is look at my phone, and it's terrible. That does send me into some not able to sleep kind of world. It's terrible because and it sort of I think goes into the FOMO part, which is that I'm always thinking, what happened? Did I miss something? What's going on? And I can't get to sleep. So I'm trying to shut that whole thing off.
Yeah. So we'll do one more bad one and then some of the good ones. So the attention span thing I think is the big one. I'm finding this with everybody that people's attention span is completely shot. You can be having a conversation with someone right face to face like this, and then without a beat, they'll start looking at their phone right in front of you.
Right.
And then the conversation continues, but then they're answering slower. We're all doing it. We're looking this way. What?
Right.
You know what I mean? I'm guilty myself. Is that, to me, this is the biggest one of this whole thing, that our brains are being split into two worlds, the online world and the offline.
Like I'm usually like answering emails from work, or someone has texted me that wants an immediate response, and I'm like, okay, I can wait, or I can just do this right now really quick while they're talking and still listen, and then sit and go back to the conversation.
But you can't.
But like, you heard like 80% of what they said, and it's a bad habit, but we all do it because our minds are in all these different places at one time. We're at work, we're with our friend, we're waiting for this to hear back from something we might want to do, and like all this stuff is happening, and you're just so wired.
So could that possibly be good? Because I think the counter argument is that because we have all this stuff, that actually we're starting to be able to multitask in newer ways, and that maybe the technology will remember things for us, so that your brain will be able to use it. You'll use that processing power in your brain for other stuff. So is that?
I think it would be great if we were able to improve our multitasking, but I don't think that that's really possible. I mean, for me, it's like, I think it's strange that when you get a text, it goes in front of the line of the person that you're talking to, right? It's like when you're at, when you're at the deli and you're ordering something and somebody calls and orders something on the phone and they go first and you're like, oh man, how do they go first, right? Because they call. But the same thing happens now with your phones all the time trying to send. And I just think guys are really bad in particular at multitasking. We've just never been able to hear two conversations at the same time or do two things at the same time. So I hope that it makes us better, but I doubt it.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll give you one potentially positive one here, that we have better visual skills. The study found out that first-person shooter games like Halo, Call of Duty, I know Travon's a big video game guy, that they actually boost decision-making skills. This was always my argument when I was playing video games as a kid, and my dad would be like, get outside and play out there. And I'd be like, my eye-hand coordination, it's so good. Do you think there's some legitimacy to that argument, that maybe through playing video games and all this digital stuff, that maybe we are doing something that's good up there?
I love Call of Duty. I also think there's truth to that, because when I was in college, we actually had this video game that someone developed to make you a better player, hand-eye coordination, timing, and decision-making, and it was just a game. It was like you were shooting these little things and having to time all this stuff, and it was supposed to improve the way you saw the court, the timing you took with passing or shooting and decision making. So apparently there's some truth to it.
Right. Even though you could actually go outside and pass and shoot.
Sure.
Do all that stuff too if you were really old school. All right, final thought on this. What about all these people that are going off the grid? Do you guys envy them at all? I actually have someone fairly close to me that is off the grid, legitimately off the grid, and I sort of have this real admiration for it, and I say that with all due irony, knowing how much I tweet and do a YouTube show and all that stuff.
I'm so jealous of it. It's like a dream of mine to be able to totally shut off. Somebody was talking about this theory that they had where they say it's something called like using the internet dressed while you're dressed. It's this whole idea that, why do you use your phone or anything when you're lying in bed or while you're, in your pajamas? You should only use the phone when you're dressed for work. So I like that theory, but I would love to go off the grid entirely.
I think if one of us could do it, it's definitely, I feel like you could take this sweater with you.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
I'd be fine.
I can't afford to, because I have a job that requires me to be on the grid all the time.
Right.
So.
Well, you switch your job. Your job becomes like collecting firewood. Or
Right. Then you're mountain man.
Yeah, you grow out the Angus T.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Throwing it back.
Join the church.
Right.
Do you admire these people at all? Do you think they're
Sure,
doing something?
I try to do like, okay, I'm gonna go like an hour without looking at my phone. Like it's baby steps, but it's really hard because everyone's always trying to contact you for something.
But don't you think that you set that up yourself? I mean, isn't that a self-imposed sort of thing? However you make yourself available, people will try to get in, right? So if you set up those boundaries, maybe.
I mean, I do sometimes, depending on what I'm doing, will ignore it until I have time to get back to it. But I get like emails from my agents and people who are saying, hey, we got this thing for you, we need to know like right now. And and so those are the things, even though they don't happen enough for me to be that paranoid, they happen enough that where it's like, did I miss anything? Because there have been times where I missed stuff because I didn't respond to the email in 20 minutes. And so I'm like, I got this feeling of like every 20 minutes I got to see what my email's doing. I got to.
So you just wrapped it all up for us because you have the fear of missing out of things that haven't even happened, and that's why you're looking at your phone.
But those things bring me money.
And now we have the actual wrap up of the whole thing. Okay, we got one more for you. We've been doing a lot about the type of stuff you put in your bodies, chemicals that we're putting in. High fructose corn syrup is in everything. We can't have sugar anymore. You have to drink corn when you're having soda. And a lot about the chemicals that we eat. And I saw this great list of all these crazy, crazy chemicals that we're putting in our body with things that we eat. Let's look at a couple of them. So this is dimethyl polysiloxane.
Wow.
How was that? That was pretty good. You
Pretty
guys feel good about that? It is a chemical used in silicone, which is found in silly putty and breast implants. It's also used as a filler ingredient in chicken nuggets, Chick-fil-A sandwiches, McDonald's fries, Taco Bell cinnamon twists, and Diet Coke, Sprite, Dr. Pepper, and Fanta sodas. And this sort of reminds me of the pink slime story that we've done that everybody knows about. And now McDonald's says they don't use pink slime, and they even put that video out about their chicken nuggets, and they show you how there's no pink slime, but it's just gray slime. It's still pretty disgusting. So actually, before we move on to the others, this stuff in particular, I know that a lot of the commenters are going to say, it's been proven that it's fine as long as you don't eat it constantly all the time. But nonetheless, Do you like the idea of putting that stuff in your body?
I think that we are eating that stuff constantly too, which is you can't even make that argument because most of America is consuming all those things at such a high level. I mean, I don't know how you look at that list of Chick-fil-A sandwiches and a Dr. Pepper and think that there isn't chemicals in those. Like I don't think anybody's being like,
I'm
oh really?
surprised.
I thought it was.
I don't even really eat or drink anything on that list.
No, you're not a Taco Bell guy? I feel like you're tweeting
not
with
cinnamon
Taco Bell.
twist.
Oh,
No,
not
the cinnamon twist. I have my occasional Taco Bell. There's not so many of them in New York, so I don't have it nearly as much as when I lived here. But anything on that list, I almost never have.
Yeah.
It's bad news.
So all the people.
I'm sure I pick it up somewhere else.
Yeah,
right.
Right, when you're eating a yoga
rested
mat or
place.
something.
Right.
But so all the people that will comment below and say, well, you guys don't understand science. We've proven that these chemicals are okay, even in higher doses than you think. You think either way, it's we shouldn't be eating it regardless, right?
I mean, look, the fast food lobby and the soda lobby are, they can convince you that any chemicals are fine. I think that those chemicals are terrible. I mean, I would advocate that everybody, eats natural foods that comes from farms nearby them, and I mean that's sort of, as you can tell from my sweater, that's the lifestyle that I try to live. But
you off the grid punk.
I know, that's what I should do. You should bring me in to be an off the gridder kind of.
The off the grid correspondent.
Yeah. Now, obviously, everyone can't do exactly what Bryn is saying for financial reasons. I want to throw that out there because every time we say that, people start going crazy about that, and that's totally legit. Okay, let's look at a couple others. We've got L-cysteine, which is used to improve the texture of commercial dough for many breads and other baked goods. The source is derived from dissolved human hair, mostly from China, of course, or duck feathers. I mean, how?
Oh my God.
The next one's even worse, but how do they even come up with that? How did someone think we are going to take human hair and dissolve it and then make it into a chemical that we're going to use in our, is this just mad science?
It sounds like it. I mean, did someone like burn their hair?
And it fell into the dough.
Yeah, and the dough was better, and they were like,
oh.
Like I didn't have time to get the hair out of the dough, but this tastes amazing.
Yeah, and if we don't have enough human hair, let's use some of those duck feathers that we have.
And isn't that funny? You go to a restaurant, if there's a hair in your soup, you freak out. Yeah, we don't have a problem. If it's dissolved and you don't see it, not a problem. And now, the third one, and this may be the winner. Castoreum, which is also known as beaver anal gland juice. Just take a moment and let that seep in, no pun intended. It is natural flavoring, which basically means it's anything.
Natural?
Yeah, what is natural? As long as it comes from nature and it isn't created in a lab. So technically this is natural. This is not a chemical. Castoreum comes from a beaver's anal gland and is used as a natural flavoring in foods and beverages like ice cream, typically as vanilla, strawberry, or raspberry. Travon, I feel you know about this because before we started the show, you immediately said the raspberry thing.
I saw that online because I love raspberry iced tea. And I was like, oh my God, I should never drink. Who was eating a beaver's ass and discovered this tastes like vanilla, a little bit like raspberry?
Right.
Like, I gotta tell someone about this.
Right.
We are missing out.
Right, it's the second guy that's curious. So,
opportunity.
okay, maybe somebody ate a beaver's ass and was like, oh, this is pretty good. I want to. But then he thought, I'm going to tell somebody about this, I guess is the weird
I just
part.
don't know how we have enough beavers in America anymore. I mean, I understand during sort of the Hudson Project we had.
How do you get them to sit still?
That's legit.
They're pretty crazy, angry animals.
Right.
I think.
Just sit still long enough to rub an ice cream cone on their butt and then take it.
I mean, really though, what the fuck? What is this? Why are we doing this? Look, I get it. Not everyone can do the farm table thing. Not everyone even has a Trader Joe's, and I'm sure Trader Joe's uses some of this stuff. But I'm just saying, not everybody has access to something a little more decent.
Right.
But how did this happen? Because we do this more in America. A lot of the stuff that we put in our food here is banned in the EU and many other places. What is it about American culture?
Well, I think, and I'm going to go back to the point about, just trying to eat sort of a better lifestyle. Instead of just saying, oh, people can't afford that stuff. I mean, you need to look at the bigger problem in America, which is that you have these, vast food deserts where people don't have access to, fruits and vegetables, and people are surviving off bodegas with the spicy Cheetos and soda like that. So, I mean, there's a bigger problem at hand that really, as a country, we need to refocus on the foods that people are eating, because otherwise you're going to continue to get these kind of chemicals that are going to be forced in. I mean, the percentage of how much, high fructose corn syrup is in every single thing that we we eat is just crazy. And then you look at who is controlling that lobby and who's growing corn, and it starts to become pretty clear that there's a vast corn conspiracy that's happening in this country and is making people sick.
So it's not a vast right-wing conspiracy. It's a
corn
vast corn conspiracy.
And beaver anal gland conspiracy. The beaver lobby.
Are you going to still drink your raspberry tea? I mean, after we're talking about this now.
Yeah,
I've probably had a few since I've seen that. I mean, like, it's hard to give up. But I think it's a liberty thing for Americans, because it's just like the soda thing in New York, where people are like, if it's my right to drink a 55-ounce soda if I want to, or like the people who get mad at Michelle Obama for just telling your kids to eat better or eat vegetables sometimes.
Yeah.
Like,
the government.
How dare you tell me to eat good food? Like, if I want to eat butter fried steaks, I'm gonna eat, but like.
Yeah.
Or cigarettes, which are full of
Sure,
chemicals
exactly.
like that don't stop anybody.
It's like they are so hung up on their freedom being taken away that they don't realize the message is actually good. Like,
Right.
And which amendment is it that you have the freedom to have beaver anal gland? It's like
Is that 6?
the 6th.
Is that 6? What's the 6th again?
I think that's the beaver gland.
I think that's the
one.
beaver gland one. All right, final thought on this. How long, if we took a caveman and we brought him here today and we fed him our stuff, does he last 2 days? Does he die literally in 2 days?
I mean, to his benefit, there are those CrossFit people who are on the caveman
They're
diet.
on the paleo diet,
He could
yeah.
probably find a good, but yeah, he would die immediately.
Yeah. I mean, does this just explain why we have all these crazy diseases, and then we take all these crazy pills that give us other diseases, and then we take other pills to mask the other thing?
Yeah, but let's also be honest. The caveman's life expectancy was probably 17 years old at that point. So I think he'd be okay.
He looked good at the end.
He did look good.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
We should try it out.
So how long you think? What do you think? 2 days, 3 days?
Oh, I think he's got like a week at least. But he's going to be excited for that week, man.
Oh, yeah.
Bouncing off the walls.
He's gonna have animal style fries. He's gonna have the works.
He's gonna have a beaver just in his hand.
Beaver on a stick.
All right, and on that note, I want to thank Bryn Mooser, Travon Free. Their Twitterers are right down below. Click, like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and we will do it again next week. All right, thanks.